I understand what you're saying with the logistics and the size of football on Jamaica, but when you look at, they've been to a World Cup already for a nation of what, close to 3 million. That's got to
Yes,
speak
close to
for
3
it's
million.
got to speak for itself. You know, I mean, you look at Canada, nearly 41 million, and they've been to 2 World Cups. And if you look at the size of the country, Canada, it's got a lot of logistics, but they're so far spread apart. It's nearly impossible to keep it in check. The glorious thing about Jamaica is you're an island and everything is in reasonable close proximity. Training is quicker, flying in and out is quicker. The whole aspect is quicker in the Caribbean region. So you got a big plus there. And I think it's the spirit that the Jamaican team play with as well. I mean, I look at that last Gold Cup and say, I think that you came up short. What do you think?
For the last, let me look at the first point. You said 3 million, but we have the diaspora as well that expanded close to 6 million. You
Correct.
understand me? And that is where we're getting the benefit from, because the Damari Greaves, the Michael Antoni, the Ethan Pinnocks, those guys have not been born on the actual island. So that is when you look at our squad now, the reason why it's so pumped up, it's solely based off these guys. But at the same time, don't take away from the guys them coming up from the land as well, because before in 1998, you only had the big deal that went on with Bolton of Ricardo Gardner. You understand me? But now you have Shamar Nicholson, Leon Bailey, Andre Blake in the States, Javian Brown. You have several other individuals getting more breaks now. So on both fronts, I think Jamaica is on the up rather than the down, based on the fact that both levels are improving at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Jamaica, just the last 10. And I mean, you've got to be happy with Coach Hallgrimsson, yes, since he's come in. I mean, talk more on Hallgrimsson, what the Jamaican fans feel that he's doing for Jamaica right now. I mean, you've got to see some form of improvement, no?
We had Theodore Whitmore. A lot of people that I've actually worked with, they liked him, because we have to understand, even though I don't like to address this point, but you have a slight bias to the locals. You know, I don't like to bring it up, but you have a slight bias. So he was one of our ex-footballers one of our footballers in 1998, and he became a coach. He went on even after the job and did well at Mount Pleasant. He actually won the Jamaican Premier League as well. So he did well for that club. But to be honest, you could see the limitations on his development, to be honest. And where we were at that time, we are bringing in high-level footballers that might not match his development. So we wanted a coach that had that experience to match with the quality of players that we are bringing in. And Hallgrimsson, obviously, some people said that he was not full-fledged, the person that qualified the team to the World Cup, but he played an integral part in order to get them to the World Cup. So he knows to deal with a small location, that's one, and he knows how to get the most out of that small location. That's two, because Iceland is smaller than Jamaica. You know, and he said Jamaica has way more talent than Iceland at this point. And I do agree with him, because I saw Sigurdsson and those guys, they are good. But what we have now is a little bit better. Some would say even much better, but I would say a little bit better on the total pool, a little bit better. You know, so I expect to get more from him. On the footballing side now, is football, because what my philosophy is more of a tiki-taka style system, more possession, because I do believe you can't lose a game if you have the football. Because or are you going to score on me when you can't get the ball? You understand me? So I've always tried to approach from that, not saying tiki-taka, but I always try to go on with a more possession base or in control base. So even if you're going to win channels, I still want to be in control of the play. So I'm guiding you out there. That is where I think I don't think we have fully synced as yet, but maybe we will do that eventually, because he said his system is hard to play, and I think he's playing a wing channel or two midfielders. I am still struggling after 11 matches. Just like how he's struggling to find a pairing as well, because he's leaving them open. The central forward not doing his job to drop back and cover for them. And they always have to be screening, and they are not so much on the attacking side. So sometimes he put Ravel Morris in it and Daniel Johnson. Those are two cams. but they have to be doing defensive shift. Then the other day he did with KC Palmer, he's attacking midfield again. So he's still struggling to find that pairing. So I like what he's trying to do, and I like the results them coming in, but I don't think the football have reached the level as yet. So that's where I will stop it. But I think we have a future with him.
Yeah,
As
definitely.
I can see things improving in certain departments better than Theodore Whitmore, not necessarily Paula, because I did like Paula's philosophy, which
Now
is
look
the
at
interim manager right in between this employment of coach Hallgrimsson.
right, yeah. Now looking towards this game, Jamaica for myself, I think this game sets up very evenly. If you're looking in the past, I mean, I think it's always been a bit of a sometimes an ugly game between Canada and Jamaica. Not to be rude, but sometimes it's such a tight affair and it's always physical. Like Jamaica brings a physical game every time. You've got to rely on being physical. They've always got good touch up front. And now I see up front, I'm not saying Jamaica's a top heavy team. It's a nice blend of a team. And you mentioned the teams coming through the Jamaican League as well. Looking at Jamaica, I feel that you've got a lot of power up front. You've got three big players out of the Premier League, not just to home in on the Premier League, but Damari Gray. I'm going to touch on him in a second. You got Antonio as well, Mikel Antonio, fantastic for West Ham. I thought that was a great addition for Jamaica when he first came in. Too bad he wasn't there years ago. I mean, make your mind up. Get away from England, get into Jamaica. It was the obvious place. And you got people like Bobby Reid. But going back to Damari Gray, I like what he brings. I really do. And I've watched him for years in the Premiership. But sometimes I get the feeling that Damari, he has this instance in the game where he just switches off and he's not in the game for a split second. But then he brings this moment of absolute brilliance. How happy are you with Damari Gray and the two guys I mentioned looking to getting goals in this game?
All right, let me clear up Mikel Antonio. Mikel Antonio tried to come at 25. They
Yes.
came and looked at him and said that he was not good enough. So let me clear up that. So he wanted to come even before making the England team because he wanted to come from, he was just transitioning into playing the striker role and the winger role as well. So he always wanted to play for Jamaica. Jamaica never looked at him until he was that big level, and
Correct.
then he had to make the decision between England. So I think
Yep.
he's a good guy. Really love him, Mikel Antonio. I
Yep.
think he was one of the ones that brought back the interest for me in football for Jamaica, to be honest. Yes. When you have not touched Ethan Pinnock, you know.
No,
Pinnock is a
I was
special
getting to
player,
it.
you know. He's actually the best player, I think, for Jamaica at this point, you know, even though he might not have that big name, you know. As we would talk about Mikel Antonio, but Ethan Pinnock was one of the best players in the Premier League last year. He actually made the statistical Premier League best 11, which is Ethan Pinnock from Brentford. So we have a serious amount of players. All right, but you said Damari Gray. Damari Gray, I think he should be the second best signing ever for Jamaica, because you had Burton back in 1997 that came on a trip with his friends and they realized he's Jamaican and put him in the team, and the rest was history. He actually qualified us for 1998 World Cup. So that was amazing. But behind him, I think he actually surpassed Burton, you know. I actually think he surpassed Burton, but because that was in the World Cup, we have to say that extra pressure for a young kid just coming to Jamaica, don't know nothing at all, had to call his parents to get get the actual go ahead to play for Jamaica.
Yeah.
That is special. But I can tell you, what I saw graded was only magical. Yes, you say he locks off in games, but you have to remember that the first time he's playing, you know, he's playing in a competition. He never played for Jamaica. He does not know these guys more than Leon Bailey at Leverkusen. So he never know anything. He just came here and just turned the switch on, and he made every single CONCACAF listing since then. But I'm sad to tell you that you might not see him because he's actually injured. Yeah, he's actually injured. And they said it's a day-to-day. I have it on my paper here. Amari Bell from Luton as well. He was coming back from a long injury, a month and maybe 2 weeks. So he's going to be a day-to-day. So you will have people that's out of the team based off injury. But the rest, you will have like Tariq McGee coming back in. And I think one of the debutant, John Bell, might be considered if Amari Bell can't make it, because that would left us short in the left back area. And then we have to use Lambakisa or Latibodir to debutize over there, to be honest. So we still have areas that we're still short in. Yeah, but as what you said, stick on that Damari Gray special. Maybe it's close. People will have to rewatch this video and decide which one is the best signing ever for Jamaica.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to give Burton, but Damari Gray is not far behind.
Now, who do you feel? I mean, I agree with you totally. I do, because I see that Damari's got some amazing feet and he's got amazing vision as well. But in this game itself, when it comes off on the island, who do you see as the impact players that are going to break down Canada?
All right. So at the back, I think Victoria. Victoria he's not getting. He is old.
Do you mean he's long in the tooth?
Yes, he's old. Kamal Miller, his speed is not the best right there. So I do believe that the back three system that they do work with can be got at from time to time. So I think if they can get between the wing backs them, which at this point might be Adekobu and Johnston, those would be the two, because obviously you want to play Alphonso Davis high up the pitch. So that would be the places where you want to hurt them most. So that would have naturally been our wingers, which is Leon Bailey, Bobby Reed, because obviously we don't have the Damari Gray at this point. Obviously maybe update comes up and he could play some portion of the game, but it's not going to be the entire game, because you don't get injured and then a day-to-day and play the entire game. It's going to be some portion of the game. So I would say our most important players at this point in our system, because we use a 4-4-2 system. That is a shocking thing. We use a 4-4-2 system.
I love it.
So I would say that
I love it.
You like it? You like that? Well, yeah. I don't. I am not so.
It's good to disagree, brother.
I want my football spicy. You know, it just oozes class when you can chop down a player, take the ball from him, and then use your triangle traps to pass around him. I don't know if it's because I'm doing too much coaching, why I'm just obsessed with this style of playing, you know? Yes.
Tiki-taka makes you go mad, man. I mean, it either works for you or it puts you in bad places. I mean, I want to talk on one point, though. Tiki-taka out from the back, yeah? Looking over the last few years, how many times have people been scored on when it's really an embarrassing play? And I always say this. When Pep Guardiola was at Barcelona and he brought the play to the world, the tiki-taka madness, and I call it madness, he did it with a team that was skillful, probably the most skillful team on the planet. And how can you expect, you'll get a laugh out of this because you're a coach, so am I, but how can you expect the slowest of feet with the biggest of dullest defenders to be as skillful as the guys up front? I mean, come on, you're putting too much pressure on guys that can't handle the ball.
That is so, and I want to make sure I don't forget the last question about who will hurt that centre back pairing R3. Yes, I'm going to get back to that. But the tiki-taka system, yes, but remember, football have evolved. And remember, everyone trying to get 11 foul players out there. So the keeper had to become a part of it. And in order for the keeper to become a part of it, you can't let the keeper being skilled than the defenders. Right. So you have to go and actually starting to train these players to be as skillful as the keeper. Because you have keepers that are skiller than the defenders. As you talk, you saw the keeper from City. You saw his ability. He's definitely skilled. Yeah. So you have to match the intensity. You have John Stones. John Stones can work in a defensive central. Rico Lewis. You saw Rico Lewis learning from early. He's a right back, a centre back, and also a CDM. But he can play on the wing as well. Yeah. So the next evolution is positionless football. So people has to do more. So I would say those people that you're referring to, they have to just do more or leave football alone. All right, because football is going to the right level that I wanted it. Seriously, qualified players.
Are you a big fan of VAR? Do you like VAR?
I like the fact that we can go back and correct some of the mistakes of the coaches. You mean of the refs? Yeah. Because we saw some incidents back in the days that really would have turned a lot of heads. So.
They did.
I love that you have the possible chance to change it, but the way that they have used it in the English Premier League I can't say I am happy with that because these guys tend to put their own culture of confusion on it. So VAR is a good thing, but the users of it in certain levels, it's not good because if you look in Belgium, because them are much more on point, on time, everything, it's don't fade the excitement. But in England, it's just chaotic. It leaves from the field, go to into the media box sets. 2 days later, he's still talking. People have to come out crying, say they never meant that. Nah, this is it's
And it's
so
costing
I think it's
Arsenal.
just
It's
blame
costing
the
Arsenal
English.
all the time. You Man City
Blame the
fans are
English.
laughing at it.
So blame the English. So let me get back to the next point now. So the people that you have to watch out for, I would say, because we're going to be using a 2 rather than a 3 up front.
Mhm.
I would say it has to be a Mikel Antonio and Leon Bailey playing behind Mikel Antonio, because that's what I think they're going to try. Either Shamar Nicholson and Mikel Antonio as the 2 strikers that push them back, or Leon Bailey playing there. When Leon Bailey plays, he kind of float from both sides. So he has to do both of the winger roles them naturally. So that's what I'm expecting. So I'm expecting the problems to come from Mikel Antonio trying to push back the entire back line and to let them and to pin them back. And then Leon Bailey tried his best work in behind. So those are going to be the 2 guys them I am looking to see the problem from if we don't have Damari Gray, which I don't expect we to have him.
Now, talking about Canada, what does Jamaica fear? You fans of Jamaica, they've got to have things they think about with Canada, what they've seen over the past, what they see now. I'm looking at the Canadian national team that literally, since the World Cup, has literally gone into decline. This is probably a really good time for Jamaica to take Canada on, seeing that you're 45 in the world. Canada's 45 in the world, you're 55. I think there's never been a better time for Jamaica to take Canada in Jamaica and possibly get a win. What do you think?
All right. So because I've identified one of the problems that I had on my list, which is the midfield pairing and how he does deploy them. Yes. But obviously that gets the best out of his wing play style system. I would say, I think Eustáquio, Kone, they are the superior midfielders to a lot in CONCACAF. So it doesn't matter who we put on the field. I think they're going to be the better in midfield. So I think he has to figure a way how he puts more than 2 in midfield. He can't combat 2 with those guys because I don't even think we have that cohesion as yet to compete with a normal midfield, because we got outplayed by Grenada. We got outplayed by 80 in that same midfield. And Eustáquio and Kone are exceptional players over that. And the right back side, we have a young kid, Dexter Lembekisa. He comes in from Wolves, but he's down now in championship, trying to get some game time. He played well against Mexico, locked down Chucky Lozano, did well after Javian Brown had some problems. Tavan Gray came in that role, and he never looked well. So we have right back problems for me, and we have 2 central midfield appearing. I think that we have some serious problems where I think you guys can hurt us very easily. So going into this game, I am not so confident as, oh, you think I should be, because if we have outright problems, I think it makes it even more balanced. It's a much more balanced game, because now on the right-hand side, you would have Alphonso Davies coming down that wing. And Alphonso Davies, I don't think we have none of the right backs to match up to him. And in the midfield, we naturally don't hold anybody. We don't retain the ball in midfield as to the right level of a top team. So I'm looking for those things to improve. If we can do that tomorrow, we have a good chance of getting something out of the game. But sadly, I don't think we're going to retain the ball in midfield. I think your midfielders are better and will win out there. And they're going to try and exploit our right backs. But all of our other players, them, I'm okay with. But those 3 positions, not so sure with. And it's hard for me to pick a game when I can't control the ball.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Looking at the game itself, though, what kind of scoreline do you think we're going to see? Because it really, it sets up game number 2, yeah?
No, this game, it sets up like we can get a few goals in it, because we talked about the You said long in the tooth. That's the word that you used.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
The
I've
phrase
said
that
that
they use,
about,
long in the tooth.
yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
so because you said that Victoria and those guys are long in the tooth, I think that a big, strong Mikel Antonio can exploit those weaknesses and stuff. Because I think him and Kamal Miller has similar problems. You
Yes.
understand me? Their
Yeah.
recovery is just not what I want. So I think a big, strong, a nippy player like Mikel Antonio that goes up against the best in the world every time, I think if we can play the right balls to him, we will have problems. So with that now, and Mikel Antonio and Leon Bailey running behind, I want to say that is problem. So I could see goals coming from Jamaica. But sadly, we conceded 4 damn goals against 80. And if we had 3 more minutes, I can tell you, it would have been more goals as well, because we have to limp on to try keep the win. So it's not the good feeling to say that we're going to keep a clean sheet. So I do see goals by just the matchups that I've talked about. Alphonso Davies versus a young 19-year-old kid, Lembekisa. I think that spelled for problems right there. Eustáquio in midfield, Kone in midfield up against John Russell and Daniel Johnson attacking midfielder. I think those things spell for more errors and more goals to score. So I want to say that by the letter of the law, it just might be more goals than what I wanted out. I was looking at a 1-1, 2-1 scoreline. It might just be 2-2 or 3-2, Yes.
It could well be. I mean, the game's got the makings of goals. I mean, on the Canadian side, who do you fear? Right? Who do you really fear? You've mentioned Alphonso Davies. Well, what about Jonathan David?
Jonathan David? No,
mean,
I was going to get to him.
To me, he's got the silkiest feet on the Canadian team. You talk about Alphonso Davies, the world does, because obviously Alphonso Davies is a fantastic player too. But Jonathan David, for me, unsung hero. He could, with another 1 or 2 years, be looked at by the big Premier League clubs. I don't think that's too much to think of.
1 or 2 year. 1 or 2 year. They were looking at him this year because Chelsea wanted to buy him.
But they didn't go for him.
Several clubs wanted to buy him. Yeah. Jonathan David is a very much high IQ player. He reads positions well. Yeah. His finishing ability is very good. And the reason why I've talked about Alphonso Davies was to start the creation of the problem. The ending of the problem would have been Jonathan David or Kyle Larin. Obviously, Kyle Larin struggling at this point, but when it comes to CONCACAF, he is just the man. He always seems to turn up for Canada. So I have not forgot about any one of them. Remember, I'm detailing everything. So I'm giving you from every part of the field. So I think this is going to be a good game for the neutral. I just have a feeling that this ain't any no 0-0, nothing like that. I think we're going to see someone losing 3-2. Who it is, I don't know.
Let's see this game getting exciting as well. I mean, the cards may even fly on this one because there's a lot riding on this first game. Yeah, I mean, it's not too much to think of because the games between these two nations are always, you're going to get crogged, you're going to get kicked, you're going to get pushed around. If you've got someone like Mikel Antonio, he comes through like an absolute bull in a china shop. You can't stop the guy. So one split second with amazing touch as well for a big man. For a big man, he's got amazing feet and he doesn't stop. And every time he plays with Jamaica, I think he plays better
that he creates,
than he does for West Ham at times.
I think he puts out more energy. Yeah, I think it shows that he's just trying to leave everything on the pitch every single day. I do respect him. And I do think where it comes from is just like people doubt them. Like they're truly coming here to play. So they want to prove a point every time that they are going to leave everything on the pitch. So I respect and love these guys so much. It's amazing, man. But you touched on the cards. Yes, I could see cards in this game, of course. This will not fly well with my Jamaican people. Okay,
well, we'll just do the yellow then.
Yes, but the yellow will be the best one. The yellow, that will be amazing. The yellow will be amazing. So with our player now, Alphonso Davies versus Damian Lowe. I know Jamaican fans will get upset. This part of the video they will hate me, but yes, Damian Lowe will always be the player that is the most unwatched to get a red card. I think it is a ratio of yellow cards is amazing. And his borderline red cards are amazing, but So I could see that. I could see a red card decision between our right side of the field.
I can see a
On
red
the
card.
next side, you'd have to explain to me who you think would get a possible red card. That's a good outlook.
For Canada, a red card for me. I'm thinking that if he plays Sami Piet, he's a bit of a. He goes down low sometimes. He goes ground easy, but sometimes that's what you need in midfield. A bit of a tough man. I call it the small man, crazy man routine. You can also say maybe Vittorio or Miller can get unlucky if they get that timing right or wrong on the edge of the box. It depends who turns and swiftly gets around him. Yeah. So if you make trouble around the elder statesman, I think there is a good chance that these things are going to come into play. I really do, man. And I think it adds to the game. I mean, let's face it. Let's just put the situation together. Canada takes a red card. It's now 11-10. Jamaica storming the net for, like, say, maybe 40 minutes, gets a couple of goals up, and we set up game 2 in Toronto where Canada's got to come out and go for it. Jamaica's sitting on a nice little piece of fortune looking to go through. I mean, this thing could be bigger than we're both thinking.
I'm not sure, but let's see. You're part of a good point. Cards could play a big part of the game. That is definitely true. But I think if it's a red card, it's going to only be one red card for our team. And I think both teams has the capable players them to set up in a manner that even with a red card, they could still see a respectable scoreline out. Because they have so much fear factors. Because look, a 10-man team with Alphonso Davies springing on one wing, always dangerous. So you don't want to overcome it.
Correct.
For Jamaica, a 10-man team with Mikel Antonio and Liam Bailey, with their speed and power, you still have to leave someone back. So that extra camp on the halfway line, you can't just win out like that. It's going to always be too difficult of a chance that you don't want to risk it. So if you get a 1 goal, you will settle on that 1 goal. So I don't think a red card will change the scoreline significant. I think the game is going to just be a game of a lot of goals because of the long in the tooth that you talked about of players, and also some of our players that are just prone to cards. I'm not going to call the name because the Jamaican people tend to don't like when I pick on players them. Yes.
I think we all know who you mean, though.
Yes, Mr. Damian Lowe, yes.
But I tell you what, closing this up, but I think we're in for a great game. There's 4 quarterfinals coming through, and I tell you, honestly, you have your doubts about Jamaica. I don't have my doubts. I think I have my doubts with some of what Canada's been doing recently. And I do say that we're probably closer than you may feel. I mean, I love your opinion, and I treasure your opinion as well. And I'm very happy that you could tell us so much about the Jamaican team and what's going on. But I think we're in for a battle, and I think that by game 2, I really feel both teams are still going to be in this game. And if any Canadian fans out there think that this is going to be a breeze, I would very much so caution you that this is not going to be as easy as you may think. Your final thoughts on this one, JD, but thanks again for joining us, man. I mean, I've absolutely loved having you on. And remember, everybody,
always.
JD, We Max It Football, get onto that YouTube channel all the time.
Always fun, man, to come and have a good football conversation. Hopefully next time we're doing it live, so I can get some of the Jamaican fans over here. They're serious about their football. Yes. But that's what I've said. I think it's going to be like a 3-2 or a 2-1. It's going to be goals because it sets up for errors because of injuries and stuff, and also maybe teams, as you said, Canada is on the downside, Jamaica is on the up, but Jamaica has a new coach. They have some players that we wanted in this game to be fit. They are not fit. So a collection of everything, and they're trying to get it right as well, just makes it entertaining. And I do believe that in the second leg, if it's 3-2, both teams will still be in it just the same, because Jamaica will believe that they can score in Canada, and Canada will believe that they can score in Jamaica. And with that, it just brings entertainment 100%.